everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers, seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hey, JJ.
Yep.
Happy Christmas Eve.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, thanks.
We should talk about some holiday traditions.
Yeah, I think so
because it's
too.
kind of fun, and maybe specifically how they've changed for us over the years with kids and everyone moving every direction.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But here's a tradition that I did not keep this year because I had to make sure it stopped. So do you remember last Christmas, what happened at our house? I don't know if you remember this.
What?
So, we had, Ethan was a senior in high school. Both boys had jobs. We were going out to Wisconsin to Amber's parents for Christmas. And so we had a lot of moving parts at our house just before Christmas.
Yes. Right.
And I think it was the Sunday before Christmas last year. I don't know, Christmas was midweek. And I was looking at our calendar and I was kind of backing out the days Ethan's got to work here. He's got school then, blah, blah.
Right,
And I'm like, oh my God, we have to have our little nuclear family Christmas
right now,
today. It has to happen today.
I do remember that. Or
it's there's no time for the whole rest of the week, and then we're going to leave to Wisconsin, and the whole thing's over. So,
Happy
so I was
Christmas.
No problem. So I went to the grocery store. I bought our favorite meal. I got it in the oven. And that evening, we ate. Ethan's girlfriend came over. We opened all of our presents. It was great. It was a great little family Christmas.
Yes, that sounds great.
And my parents are in Florida over the winter.
Right.
And they had left some presents for us before they left.
Mm-hmm.
And
because Mrs. Parker's the greatest mom of all time.
Absolutely. So then I called my mom to thank her for the presents that she gave us and burst into tears.
I do remember this.
Wait, what?
Oh, you such a bad son.
Right. And then she said the ultimate, which was talk to your father.
Oh.
And then she handed the phone to my dad.
Well,
who is terrible
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, who is terrible in these situations. So he goes, how's work? I'm like, okay, Dad, I will talk to you later.
You did not ever say the specificity of that phone call. Oh my God, that is hilarious.
So the tradition of forgetting to call my mom will not persist.
What did she want? What was she sad about? Because you were calling to say thank you. So
because what we should have done is got them on FaceTime.
Yeah,
and so
right.
so she could watch the
it.
kids and be a part of opening presents and our Christmas, evening there. So
such an unintended
I felt really bad.
diss.
Yeah, I felt really bad.
Oh.
And it wasn't, but that's kind of what I want to talk about. It's as when our kids are maybe little, or we've got a pretty controlled routine.
Yeah,
we've got we've got a lot of routine around it, but when it starts changing, when your traditions and your routines start changing, maybe for me, it's when I was a kid, we had a tradition of going to my aunt and uncle's house. Well, now that they've passed away, that tradition has faded away.
Right.
Which affects how often I see my cousins, because that was the one thing that I got to see all my cousins during. So then, yeah, like my parents now living in Florida, so it just changes. It's
It
hard
just
to keep
changes.
in the right routines and what
Well, and
things do
I
you,
don't even I mean, like, I don't even know if I would call it a routine as much as I would call it an expected tradition. Like,
mm,
it's, these are really, really deeply seated. They're not
mhm.
just like, get out of bed on the other side this morning. Like, this is really, there's a lot of expectation. And I think, and I always say the greater the expectation, the greater the resentment.
Mm,
But Christmas and holidays, Hanukkah, all of these really big holidays, we have such strong, deep family traditions,
mhm.
most of us. And um, and even when it's no longer appropriate to do them, I think we put ourselves in these places where we try to outdo
Mm.
or at least hold those traditions solid, even when it doesn't even make sense anymore.
Well, some of those traditions feel really comfortable, right?
I
You're going to be doing
know.
them for a long time and you want to continue to do
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Like for example, for us, we have two adult children.
Yeah, I was
And
going to
one,
ask, now you've got,
oh my gosh.
kids, married adult children, and now you've got that whole dynamic to deal with.
Well, I always tease that, I always, because Mitch will oftentimes try to lead with guilt, and I
Mm.
always say, Mitch, I'm not Catholic. Okay. For all the Catholics, I don't mean to be disrespectful. But yeah, but I'm always like, guilt doesn't affect me. But here's what I heard myself saying to my son is he was talking about he and his fiance,
Mhm.
and in their family, the fiance's family, they really covet Christmas Eve.
Mm.
And I covet Christmas Eve.
Oh.
Now, the funny thing is that all the other holidays of the year, I couldn't care less if we celebrate on the day or not. I
Yeah.
really couldn't. Like,
Yeah.
do Thanksgiving on Sunday? Fine. Celebrate your birthday 2 weeks later? Fine. I don't care. It's totally fine. However, I have this
Except
thing.
Christmas
I
Eve.
have this thing about Christmas Eve.
That one's mine.
Yeah. So I start at the end of November. So you guys, what do you think Christmas Eve looks like this year? And then I heard myself saying to my son, listen, I understand that you are making your new traditions, and I think it's really important that you guys have this time, that you are setting your own traditions.
Mhm.
And even though I have always coveted Christmas Eve, should you choose to do something else this year, I will understand and I will get absolutely around it. But you got to give me now so I have time to do this. And he's quiet. And I said, no, Mitchell, I mean, I can be okay with if you guys
Mhm.
aren't going to be with us Christmas Eve. And he's quiet. And then I hear him say, are you sure?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you what, it is so deeply seated in my soul
Mhm.
that our family is together on Christmas Eve. And that is, that's crazy that it has to be that specific. But I think the reason it is because it goes back to from the time I was a baby, Christmas Eve was our night.
Mhm.
My grandparents, and we had all of these traditions and all of these things that
Yeah.
we would go to. Actually, we went to midnight church,
Mm.
Christmas Eve when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, and come home and there would be gifts and packages under the tree and all the things.
Mhm.
And it was so fun. It was so special. So, I'm just picturing that, and my poor kids are probably like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know they're on the phone with each other.
Yeah.
Mom's a
Watching-
freak.
Yeah.
Mom's in freak mode. It's Christmas.
What's an interesting thing is like you're being very conscious of it.
I'm trying.
I don't um but like how many of those things like first you're being very conscious of not putting your emotional stuff on your kids. Like
Yeah, I
you're
am
not
very much trying to do
you're
that.
not you're trying to make them not responsible for your emotions
I'm
around
not
this,
sure.
which is very nice.
I don't know how well I'm doing, but it's definitely my intention. But when I heard myself saying, I will get over it, I thought,
No,
oh my gosh,
no, you won't.
stop talking.
Well, I don't think you will.
I don't either. I don't. Well, if they're listening, no, never mind. They don't listen to the pod.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is crazy though, because I think as our families mature and as we
change, our personal roles change in the hierarchy of our generational families, it shifts again.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like almost like I see it as almost like there's been different people sort of in my life responsible for holiday traditions.
Yeah.
And they always carry those on. And I suppose now it's my turn.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting to be a grandpa now soon.
Wait,
No,
now,
not
come
quite.
on.
No, but you know what I was just flashing at when you were saying that? I automatically started to picture Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. You remember when he was trying to get all the lights on and his dad comes out and goes, we're just going home. Tonight's been a disaster, son.
I haven't yet watched that movie for the holidays. This year, yeah.
Oh, there's another tradition.
I know. Getting a little angsty about it. It's my favorite movie, and Abby really doesn't like it. And so
Really? Why?
I have to like secretly watch it.
Why doesn't she like it?
I don't know. Yeah. That's a different pod. Why don't you like Christmas Vacation? The best movie ever.
You know what, though? I think, if you start to unpack, so we're talking about these traditions in a more global sense. But when you start to unpack what some of these traditions are and your core belief around them, I think it's really interesting. Like you just said, watching Christmas Vacation. Are there other shows that you watch at Christmas time that you feel are sort of like you have to watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, same here. Like It's a Wonderful Life, Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire.
The problem here is that you are sophisticated and high class. And literally, I am not joking, our family tradition, Christmas tradition show is the South Park Christmas special with Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh. It is disgusting, it is ridiculous, and we watch it every single year.
Oh my gosh. No, the fact that you just put me in that category, I don't think I'm ever going to get over that. That is hysterically funny.
You're watching black and white film, and we are watching a vulgar cartoon.
With your 3 children. Oh, isn't that great, though? Because you all love it, and you think it's so fun.
Yeah.
But, okay, so think about it like this. Like, we all understand that traditions have to change. Like, yeah, okay, theoretically, that makes total sense. It's like, yeah, how can you even make a conversation about it? Everybody knows that. But let me just come at it from a different angle. You have these shows that you love to watch at Christmas. What drives you to watch them, and what happens if you don't?
Yeah, I mean, I just said, like, I'm getting a little just restless because I haven't seen it. And, does that make any sense? Or that's just like a habit built up
I think it totally makes sense.
For decades, over and over.
It makes total sense. And the thing is that it makes you feel good watching it, right? Because you feel like you're doing what you always do at this time.
Yep.
Well, sometimes maybe we even outgrow certain things. I'm not suggesting you'll ever outgrow South Park.
Thank you.
But you know what, though? Like, sometimes, like, I used to have all these shows that I would watch. I mean, I had like 5 or 6 shows. I probably still do if I think about it. But the feeling that I would give myself if I didn't watch them was like I would almost guilt myself for not doing all of these stacked things just because it's this time of year. And if I don't uphold those traditions, then I'm somehow failing, which then gives me the exact opposite feeling of what it's meant to give me. Like Christmas cards. Families used to send out Christmas cards, right? I sent out 150 Christmas cards a year, every single year, without fail. And I had them done by Thanksgiving Day. Okay, freak. Okay, insert freak.
It's pretty early, yeah.
Big lights, big flashing lights. And then I cut it down to 100, and then I cut it down to 75. In the last couple of years, I haven't sent Christmas cards out.
A text to 8 people.
Right. Hey. It just says, hey.
Hey.
But again, the feeling of that tradition not happening anymore because Christmas card giving was a gift. That was your way of giving a gift to someone or receiving a gift from someone
Mm-hmm.
that cared for you and was telling you they were thinking about you at this very special time.
Yeah.
And those things have really changed and morphed over the years.
Yeah. So there's lots of things in play over the holidays and the traditions, right? You've got,
Yeah.
your like religious and spiritual beliefs
Right.
that frankly maybe have morphed over the years as you've gotten older. You've got family traditions, but you also have changing family dynamics and makeups, like
Yeah.
new spouses and
Right.
partners and
Right.
different people in your life. Friendship changes over the years. So the idea that you'd have a stable, like rinse and repeat for decades on
Right.
end isn't really realistic.
It's not.
Although it's kind of like what we crave.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. Well, how about this? Have you guys ever just up and done something completely different over the holiday?
Yes.
You have?
Oh yeah.
See, I'm scared to do that. Like, I sometimes dream about, because I have several clients and friends that will do like Cancun or they'll go to the mountains for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Our best friends in the UK are like, come for Christmas Day and Boxing Day. We'd love to have you. And I covet the idea of those things. Like, I just think, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. Oh, I can't do that.
There was one, like we've always done something for Thanksgiving. And this was probably like 10 years ago. There was one Thanksgiving where we decided that we weren't going to go see any of our family and we were just going to have Thanksgiving,
wow.
the 5 of us at our cabin. And everyone in our family remembers that as the best Thanksgiving we've ever had. Not
Really?
Yes, not because the other Thanksgivings are necessarily bad,
Right.
but I think because it was so different. It was like an outlier in our tradition. And that I think that memory is just really stuck with us and the kids.
Yeah. So that's so interesting because I was actually expecting you to say the opposite. As you were telling the story, I 100% thought you were going to say it went down as the one we hated the most because you were alone, but you loved it because it was different.
Because it was different. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I think probably I think it's almost fear
and
changing a tradition.
Because my turkey that year turned out is like the best turkey I ever made. I think it could have been, actually, now that I think about it, it could have been the turkey. And nothing to do with the people.
I hate Thanksgiving. I just hate Thanksgiving.
It was the oven, yeah.
Gosh, I just hate Thanksgiving. Every year I say, I just can't stand it. It's such a mess. It's so much work. Oh, can't we just look at each other and say, I'm really thankful for you? And then that's it? And
no,
not
you
be
must also
exhausted?
make a giant buffet of food.
A 25-pound Volkswagen turkey.
I've got like a Christmas question for you, tradition question for you, because I know that you make an enormous number of cookies.
Yes, I do.
And like I just have this vision of you fast forward a few years when, your kids and maybe you got grandkids and and not as many people are around and you're still in your kitchen. Like
You bet
the
I
crazy cookie lady, and you made
Damn
like
straight.
5,000 cookies, and you're like trying to give them away to people at like the grocery store.
At the grocery store.
Like
100%.
your mail person got like 400 cookies in a giant box. Yeah.
All of our neighbors have gotten cookies in tins. Yes, that's so true. That is so true. I am.
At what point do you decide to downscale the cookie operation to
don't be
something more
ridiculous.
reasonable?
Well, that's a good question. Not today. Not this year.
Now we're really getting into like the real issues around traditions.
But this is the thing. Again, that's another example. So I make 100 dozen cookies a year. Okay.
100 dozen. No one
Yes.
says quantities like that.
Unless they're commercial kitchens. Well, And there are all sorts of things, candies and bars and cutouts. And
Mhm.
it is insane. Dipped cookies and rolled cookies and smashed cookies and, oh my God, frosted cookies. Oh, it is insane. And I start the day after Thanksgiving every year.
So, right. Now, if you didn't make that many cookies, if you decided like I wasn't making cookies this year, I bet you would be just squirming in your seat
Totally.
for a whole month or more.
Yes, I've tried. I've tried this.
It didn't
But
work.
here's what happened. I sent out a family text and I said, okay, everybody, give me the 2 kinds of cookies that you want the most. Well, keeping in mind, there's 6 of us. So, of course, I'm getting 12 different kinds. Although there were crossovers. Goofballs is a family favorite of ours. I don't know if you've ever eaten any of those.
A goofball.
They're a big size marshmallow dipped in warm caramel and rolled in Rice Krispies.
Oh,
They're
nice.
absolutely delicious. Chef's kiss. Yeah. So I did that. And that was my way of, okay, and this is my way of figuring out which ones people don't really like. Even though I already know that because there's always some left over. I felt so inadequate. Because no one chose the ninja bread men. Okay? So I have gingerbread cookies that I make, but they're ninja men. So they're in these funny like fight shapes. Jeez. I'm sounding more and more like a freak. Maybe I should stop talking.
No, but what you said is I felt inadequate, which I think is a really insightful thing around the holidays because
I did
when we've
say
been
that.
when we've been in a position, especially as parents or the ones that maybe like primarily host to these things.
Right.
Right.
And
I think this is, maybe a bit what kind of like affected my mom. And I'm sure lots of other people go through it when we're like that primary pillar in people's lives.
Right.
And then we're not.
Right.
The feeling that like we're not providing what we should or what we did. And that feeling of inadequacy is probably a really big driver.
Well, and you know what else I just realized? Like, how many times have you unconsciously tried to recreate a tradition that someone else in your family did and then comparing yourself to it the whole time, knowing it will never be what it was when that person was doing it? Right? Like, that is a huge thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens with all of us in some regard.
Yeah.
Because it happens, like, I'm just recognizing that and thinking, oh my gosh, for sure I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, comparing. And then, I think that the workload around holiday traditions is high.
Yeah.
And some people like to complain about it.
Yeah.
But also, they like it. It's like a double-edged sword.
Yes,
It's like, I'm going to complain about how much this work is, but we're definitely doing it next year. Right?
Oh, well, I feel like this is like giving me permission to have a different tradition this year and let it be okay. Like, it's not a bad thing if you don't recreate either what someone else in your family did or even what you've been doing the last several years because your family was different.
And, it can be a reframe, right? You can say like, hey, now that my kids are older, we're at this different season in life.
Yeah.
Let's recreate, let's rebuild a new thing.
Yeah.
And let's take all the good things from that we like from our old traditions and apply them into our new tradition.
Yeah. And let it be
build
okay.
something new.
And I don't think even if you don't nail it the first time, that means that it was a failure. It just means, well, that's okay. We just try something else. I think that's a really good goal. It's a good goal. I'm not sure I'll be able to totally nail it with that sort of purity, if I'm honest, but I'll work towards it.
Well, we expect a full report on the podcast 1 year from now to see how
or maybe
the next couple of days went for you.
Yeah, we'll interview my adult children. Oh, no, absolute fail. Total fail.
All right. Well, good luck with this year's traditions.
Yes, you
Happy
too.
holidays.
I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.